Alrighty, friends, it's that time once again because you hit play on another
super happy fun time episode of V8 Radio, Kevin.
Oh my goodness, super happy fun time episode. I'm your host, Kevin Oeste, joined as always by our esteemed co-host, Mr. Mike Huball Clark. And you did hear another laugh in the background, and that is that we have a very special guest joining us in our virtual studio this time, the lovely and talented Kelle Oeste. Yay!
Hey guys! Thanks for letting me participate.
Well,
I am so happy that you decided to participate today.
see what happens when you listen?
Yeah.
I think I got caught listening, and then I got put on. I was voluntold that I was going to be on a podcast today.
No, that's not what happened. You said, boy, that show is so much fun. I'd love to be part of that.
Somehow I have a problem believing Kelle Oeste was voluntold anything.
This is correct. So we will qualify our guest. Kelle, of course, is the operations manager at the V8 Speed and Resto Shop, and also my lovely wife, and a loyal listener to this show. But the fortunate thing is that you don't seem to be a loyal listener out of obligation.
Oh no, it's very funny, and I always want to know if Mike got his car running.
One of these times, you're going to hear the answer to that be yes.
The other thing I listen for is what part does Mike need next?
Oh, boy.
Yeah. And did you hear what he just said? He said the answer, you'll hear the answer to that BS is what I heard. Little Freudian thing.
Yep.
Right.
But for those who have heard this show before, you know that the handful of listeners that return each time come back primarily because of the automotive sort of related trivia question. And because we have a guest, did you, Kelle, did you prepare trivia questions you're going to throw in the mix and try and stump Mike?
I did.
Uh-huh.
Do you want to hear it?
Well, I guess being the guest and the lady, you go first.
Ladies first.
The question is, what company did Henry Ford need to get permission from to use Mercury as a model name?
What the heck? You've been talking to Trevor.
I knew I wanted it to be about Mercury. Trevor led me down the line of a Mercury-type topic.
Well, remind me to whoop Trevor's ass next time I see him.
Well, Mike, I'm going to let you handle this one first.
Oh, you're the best, Kev. You couldn't handle it first, so I can't just agree with you. Like, that's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah.
All right.
Neither one of us are going to get this right.
First.
So
That's great. All right. What company did Henry Ford need permission in order to use the Mercury name? That was the question?
Yes.
Okay. He needed to get permission from Firestone. Firestone owned the Mercury name.
Okay.
And that's a fact.
Oh, okay.
And it's going to be a painful one when I find out I'm wrong.
We'll figure that out, won't we?
And so we got permission from Firestone because they were chums.
Chums.
They were.
Okay.
Right on.
Oeste?
They were good friends.
Where do you think it came from?
All right. Well, okay. So my assumption is I don't know that Firestone was around before Henry Ford making tires. Were they? So I don't know about the Firestone thing. That's my guess.
I only know the answer to this question, not
Sure.
all of your others.
Right. Well, but you're gonna be subject to Mike's and mine also, so don't think you're getting off.
I know.
easy.
I'm not going to know the answer to those at all.
Okay. So
Can I Google it?
my theory here is that it was a company that was far larger than Ford, perhaps. Otherwise, Henry Ford probably wouldn't have cared. He wouldn't have asked for permission. He would have said, "I'm bigger than you are. I don't really care." And in those days, so when did Mercury come out? Mercury came out in the 30s. I'm pretty sure, mid 30s, with the Zephyr and with the the Mercury, or Lincoln was a Zephyr at that point. So Mercury came out in the late 30s, early 40s, or maybe immediately post World War II. So the only thing I can think of at that point was there was a thing called the Mercury Theater, which was like an entertainment company.
Oh.
Kind of like Universal Studios.
Okay.
And that is my guess that he had to ask them because I don't think Freddie was born yet. So that's my guess.
I want to change my answer, please. Change my answer.
To what?
Well,
what he said.
See, I'm not sure about this one because
No.
we're recording this using Skype technology this time, and we can all see each other even though we're not in the same room. And Kelly does not have much of a poker face.
That's why I'm trying to cover it right now.
But I don't think I got it right because I'm not seeing the look.
Well, that's funny because if you recall, back in the early days of V8 Radio, I had zero poker face when you were getting my questions right.
I laugh all the time.
Oh my gosh, it was brutal. I'm like, how does this guy know this? Jesus.
Well, I could see it in your face.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
I've since learned to keep it quiet.
Yeah, not so much, but that's okay. You do a good job of it. I just learned that sometimes people can hear Mike drinking his adult beverages during the show.
Oh yes.
Oeste.
Okay, so that's my final answer.
Okay, who's next?
How about Mike?
Okay, Mike will go next. This is going to be short, sweet, simple, to the point. Can you tell me the firing order of a small block Chevrolet?
Oh, no, I forgot.
Who are you asking first?
I feel like it's 8375. I don't know. I don't know. I'm going to get it out of order. Kevin knows it by heart.
Can I go?
So
for
your
it.
answer is I don't know. That's
I'm
not an
out of
acceptable
order.
answer.
I'm
I
out of
need
order.
8 numbers.
Yes, because there's never been an I don't know on this show.
No.
There's been a lot of wrong answers,
A lot of wrong answers.
but I don't know doesn't qualify.
I
No.
feel like it's 8, 3, 4, 5, 7, 2. I don't know. How many numbers am I at right now?
You're at 6 numbers.
5. I'm missing 5. And
No, you said 5.
see?
Family show, Kelly. Family show.
Yeah, you have to
You're gonna edit that,
edit
right?
this one, yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
I needed time to Google this.
No, there's no cheating on this show. This is either you know it or you can't remember, and you might know it and it'll come to you later. That's happened many times.
Yeah, I'm not going to know it, so just skip me. Go on, Oeste. Rattle it off like you know, like French or something.
But that's the thing. I don't know French. Mike, were you able to pencil in the last 2 numbers on that one? Or?
I have 8, 3, 4, 5, 7, 2, ...
I think that's a phone number, isn't it?
I forget.
yeah, 8675309.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's do
There
that. It's like take the 9 and move it to a 1 or something.
Okay.
Ugh.
My guess is it's 184-36572.
4365572. Kevin says. I don't know where you came up with that nonsense.
Oh,
but,
he knew it. I knew
we'll
he
find
knew it.
out at the end of the show.
Yeah, there you go. I might have gotten that confused with a Buick, but we'll see.
Right, or a Pontiac.
Yeah. Right on. Okay, well, I also
man.
prepared a little trivia question as well.
How fortunate for us.
Yes. Well, I thought, it's only fair because, you guys did it. And this one, unfortunately, has nothing to do, you would think it'd be smart to make it contextual to our guest, to have a trivia question that was contextual, but this one is not.
What's that going to be if we can't talk about fishing or chainsaws?
Yeah. No, I don't know. So I'm sorry, but you can go first. All right. Ready? When was the first speeding ticket issued? And the bonus, what car?
You mean between you and I, or in history? It was Kelle was the person.
Oh yeah.
And,
Well,
When
are you
was the-
suggesting she knows something about speeding and speeding tickets?
Yes.
I told you this is not contextual.
Not at all.
In the
When was
U.S.,
the
in the
first
U.S.
speeding ticket? When and where?
When, and the bonus is what vehicle?
Okay. All right.
Even
the
just
first speeding-
what type of vehicle would be okay for the
Okay.
bonus.
First. All right. Who wants? You going to take a stab at this first?
Go ahead.
Yeah. All right. I'll say when the first speeding ticket was issued. I'm going to say. I know it was fairly early on in the days of the automobile. But the year 1902 comes to mind for some reason.
Wow.
Oh yeah,
1902.
1902.
That's
Okay.
right when Henry Ford had to get permission from Firestone to make Mercury.
Pretty much.
So I remember a previous podcast where you guys talked about the
You remember those?
speed limit, the speed limit being legally 55 miles an hour.
Mm.
So could they have given a speeding ticket before there was a speed limit?
That is a philosophical question.
Uh-huh.
Which came
So-
first, the ticket or the egg?
I'm going to say I don't remember the year that the stupid speed limit came in because that's just dumb. So I'm going to say 1962.
Wow.
And it was in a something that goes fast in 60s.
Well, yeah, you would think.
A Daytona.
Okay.
Those are both wrong answers, Mike, in case you couldn't tell.
I could not tell. I don't know what a wrong answer sounds like
Unless you're saying it, I think.
unless I'm saying it.
Yeah.
I don't listen to myself.
Yeah. Okay. 1962 in some form of a Daytona.
Yeah.
Okay. Logic there that it's fast and whatnot. Mike, did you want to take a stab at the bonus side of the question
Oh.
with what car?
What
Wait, there
car
was
it-
probably no Daytona in 1962 or something silly like that. Pull the neck of the balloon a little harder, Oeste.
It was.
You didn't say it's your final answer, so you could retract at this point.
What the car that it was in. I'll say it was. Oh gosh, I said 1902. I can't even think of any cars except Fords.
And it doesn't necessarily have to be the brand of car. What type of car is what the question was.
Oh, it was what type of car? As far as like how many wheels it had, like 3-wheel or 4-wheel.
You could do that if you want. I mean, I don't want to just give you the answer for crying out loud.
Well, I don't know in what context you're talking about. What kind of car? A hardtop? A convertible? A steam? It was a steam car. Oh, have a nice day.
Oh, wow.
Have a nice
Look
day.
at that. Look at that.
Steam car.
So,
Mm,
nice.
take that.
Cleveland Mike gives us a steamer.
Yeah, God. That will be edited out, sir.
A steam car is the bonus. All right. Well, I'm excited to find out what the actual answer is later in the show.
Okay.
Likewise.
Yeah, that's fantastic. All right, so back to where we were before the interruption of the whole trivia thing. So Kelly's joining us, and she is our operations manager at V8 Speed and Resto, and the shop and your position has had quite a year over this past, we'll call it 2019 up until early 2020.
Yeah.
Why don't you take us through a little bit of the crazy stuff that happened? I mean, the biggest one being the giant expansion of the shop, and the crew got bigger and all that stuff. How's it
Yeah.
going?
You and Mike have talked about it a few times. We purchased the equipment of a collision shop in January, and then we purchased the actual collision shop building in February of 2019. And the sole purpose I did that was for a downdraft paint booth inside the building. We could not figure out a way to put a paint booth in our existing facility. And it was right next door and modern and convenient. So we moved into there. We got working right away. And we have a crew of 19. So somewhere along the way, I don't remember which month, but we were chatting with our fabricator, and he said he could also do upholstery work. And we said, what? So we expanded in the other direction down the street into a house that we had currently already owned, but we were using just as an employee lunchroom and storage. And we turned that into an upholstery shop. And the crew has, you mentioned growing, but I think that's still the same. Well, I guess in December we added an employee to our sales force and helping us bring the customers in to the shop and work with them while they're working, while we're working on their car. And I, for the first time in 15 years, got an office when we got the new building.
Yay!
So I have heat and air conditioning and some quiet time where I can answer the phone without Trevor hitting an impact wrench. And so those are some of my highlights of the year. And then just a bunch of travel for work and car shows and events. And the Saudi trip was a highlight too for 2019. And the shop is just, I think now at a comfy growth feel. We're all filling into our positions in the shop. Like, this is where my toolbox is going to be now. And this is where this cart or bench is going to be. Like, we like where they are now.
Yeah.
So everybody's finding their home, and I'm looking forward to 2020. I don't expect to grow in size, but I'm hoping for some really cool projects for the crew, and obviously the efficiency and the quality control to always keep increasing.
Yeah, it's been one heck of a year with a lot of expansion and different stuff going in all directions, and it all seems to be working very well, which is a tremendous testament to your ability to keep the lid on the pot and to keep the wheels on the bus.
I give that credit to the crew for the most part. They definitely keep the wheels on the bus, and we have some key employees who help the other ones learn and grow, and they work so well together. I think the wheels on the bus definitely runs towards them, not me. I'm just kind of paying the bills and paying the taxes and managing a bunch of the operations management side of things. But as far as work and the production and things like that, that's definitely all the crew. They're doing such a great job.
Well, I'll interject on that, and you do more than pay the bills and all that other stuff. You set the tone, you dictate the culture in the shop. So the way that place is running is due to the two of you and your efforts. So, and I've said that before, and I'll keep saying it, and that's because that's how it is.
Okay.
Well, that's very kind of you to say. I mean,
Yes.
It's definitely a team approach and a team effort. Kelle and I both came from corporate positions before we started this company, and we were kind of fed up with the ridiculousness of those types of environments. And we didn't want to create that kind of environment. So there's far more, encouragement of creativity and a lot of independence. And a lot of times, you let the team do what they're going to do, and you hope they brung enough, to do it. And if they don't, we sit down and try and figure out, what needed to go differently or better. Was it a resource? Was it a practice? What was it? And I think that's good. Everybody has a voice. Everybody's got a stake. And a lot of that, though, came from Kelle doing the monthly staff meetings and asking each team member individually. It's kind of fun because there's an anonymous form that anybody can go to online and put questions up for the company meeting, right? And we don't know who says it, right? So there's no risk of stress or
right, being outed or anything like that.
Yeah. Sometimes, though, the flip side is that we have a big company meeting and Kelle goes around the table and asks every single person if they have any input, and many times there's just nothing but silence. And she's like, what is it? I keep asking these guys what they want. And silence to me is kind of good. It means they're okay. They don't really need anything else. But
Right. And it's good that they do have a form, an avenue to convey their concerns to you anonymously, and not necessarily have to, do it if they don't want to, if they don't feel comfortable doing it in front of everybody. So
yeah, one of my favorite parts is in the evening after everybody kind of works not a consistent 8 to 5. They might come in at 7 and leave at 4 or something. So several of the guys will just come into my office and hang out and tell me about their day or their lives or whatever's going on. And I don't know too many places where you want to do that with the boss. So I really enjoy that. That's nice.
That's killer. I love hearing that.
Yeah.
Nice.
There hasn't been places where I've worked in the past that I wanted to do that outside of this, same kind of thing. That is pretty cool. And it is an amazing contrast to think, when you mentioned the first office you've had in this organization is just touching a year old right now, and we've been in business this is our 16th year.
Yep.
Oh boy.
I don't know if Mike, you've seen the original location of our shop back on the on Kelly's family's farm, but Kelle, paint the picture of what it was like to have just 2 cars in the shop and maybe 1 or 2 people on staff, and your office, desk, table.
My desk, in quotes, also merged as my bench, my workbench. So I did a lot of the paint prepping and restoration of the small parts. So I would either move them out of the way and use my laptop, or put the laptop away and restore parts on the same spot. And for years at that location, I could literally, without turning my body at all, put my arm behind my back and touch the car that we were working on.
Oh boy.
And often that was the fabrication stall. And so if I happened to have been sitting at my desk, I would often be showered by sparks, or listening to a grinder constantly, or welding, be set on fire or whatever. And I loved it. It was that's where I wanted to be. I left a law firm because I couldn't stand sitting inside and just sitting still and doing paperwork. And I was able to work on a car and then do something on the computer and then go back to the car. And when we began, I was a fabricator. I was a mechanic. I was a body man. I didn't ever paint anything. Well, yeah, I didn't ever paint anything.
That's not true, because you built our first chassis jig that we
I
still
did
use
paint
today.
the jig.
And,
You're right.
And you
you're
painted
right.
that.
Yep, with tractor paint. It was orange.
It was a tool.
But I learned how to paint. I learned how to weld from the very start of this company. And my brother would come in and he'd spread body filler, and I would sand it, and he would spread it again, and I'd be like, "You jerk." But he taught me about how to feel the body filler and how to sand it and look for pinholes and feel sanding scratches and know if it was going to be wavy when it got shiny stuff put on it, and to pay attention to those details and fix them in the beginning instead of trying to hide them in the end, and all kinds of welding techniques. And I remember
safety.
Yeah, welding safety, and many of these cars don't come with seatbelts, and John is a ICAR certified auto body technician, and he came in and said, well, if my kids are going to ride in this car, you're going to make it safe. So we had to weld to the ICAR standards, and we had to put plates under where the seatbelts would bolt through, otherwise the bolt would just pull through the old floors. So we learned those techniques, as well as just keeping the car assembled straight and true and accurate, and so many things about rust prevention, and looking at why it rusted and seeing if we could seam seal it or drill a hole where moisture could get out. All those techniques I learned at the very beginning, working with my brother, physically working on the cars. Now it's a lot of paperwork and organization, but back then it was great that I got to work on the cars every day.
Right on. I mean, you got to literally build this company from the ground up.
Yes. The very first car we did, my brother and I and my dad built the jig, and then we laid 2 frame rails from Classic Industries on this jig and built an entire Camaro around it from a catalog, really.
Oh my gosh.
And so that's where I learned all that I know now. Yeah.
You know, Kelly, I too know how to weld.
I know you do.
Just saying.
You did a great job of it too, Mike.
Well, he had a heck of a teacher.
He did.
He did. I did. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's definitely. I don't want to say a textbook. You know, nothing about our company is ordinary, but it's been a great definitive example of organic growth.
Yes.
Even though it wasn't necessarily the trajectory that we had anticipated.
No, what I remember is, like a lot of companies start, we had hands-on skills and we wanted to start our own company, but we didn't know jack about running a business. And I remember when I met with the accountant and he said, you really don't have independent contractors. You really have employees. You need to make them employees and pay them as employees. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about, man. So I had to learn that as well as how to weld. And I grew up with my dad being a diesel mechanic and my brother doing auto body work. And I was wet sanding and fixing and cleaning parts since I was a very young child. And then to grow that into this business and have employees and responsibilities beyond weld this together, it was a complete learning experience the whole time. It still is.
You're right on. And not only were you starting a restoration company, but and that's not, if that's not tough enough, you're also building a video production company at the same time.
Yes. So Kevin, I remember we still lived in Chicago at the time when we had started V8 TV, was kind of the parent-based beginning company. We didn't have a shop at the time. And Kevin created V8 TV, and he said, okay, we need to shoot a video. And I had to talk about the IVR in the dash of the 62 Galaxy. And Kevin at the time had a camera that he mounted the recorders, transmitters on top of the camera. And he put it on a tripod, and he put it 3-4 feet from my face, right? And I could see myself in the lens, and then this antennas from the receivers are looking at me, and I'm like, there's like this giant bug staring at me, and I can see myself, so I got to go put makeup on, and I'll be back, and I was just a mess. And at the time, we tried scripting me, and Kevin or I don't do as well with scripting as we do just off the cuff. And
wait. What page are we on now? Hold on.
If we know that,
yeah, I'm lost. I'm lost in my paragraph. I'm sorry.
If we know the topic, we can just talk about it, and Kevin especially. And so when he was trying to script me, you could tell I was reading it and I was stumbling. So he educated me about the IVR, and then I went on to talk about the IVR, and that was much easier. But the camera freaked me out for a long time.
That's crazy that I didn't forget about that experience by any stretch, but. That you still remember the whole IVR story, because that was, Mike, what we were doing was building an electronic instrument voltage regulator. That's what the IVR was.
Oh, okay.
And in the Fords in the 60s, we're still trying to storyboard out the timeline. What we think is that the gauge movements were like left over from the 6-volt days. And they just had all these gauge movements left over that ran on 6 volts. So even though the cars were all 12 volt in the mid 60s, the dash was still 6 volt. So there was a little step down voltage regulator from 12 to 6 that ran the gauges. And they would notoriously fail. And this was, we're talking 2004, 2005. And the internet parts resources weren't as robust as they are now. And it was hard to find these things. And you'd go to a parts store to buy one, and they would, ship it in from the hub shop, 2 states away. And it had been sitting on the shelf for a decade and a half, and it didn't work new. So the solution was to use electronics to build an electronic solid state instrument voltage regulator. And it was a trick that I learned from some Mopar guys because they've been doing it. And I said, well, this would be a great little project for an episode of V8 TV. It's a little hands-on. It's tech, it's different. Here, can you do this?
And electric is my weakness. The strong part about my electrical skills is I fit under the dash. So Kevin, all the years that we were together, Kevin would say, "You're looking for a yellow wire with a blue stripe. Found it. What do I do with it? Connect it to the one that's over here on the cigarette lighter." Okay. So those were my strengths, but to read the chart or to understand the voltage and all that, not me, but I had to do the IVR.
Yeah. I still have that one too, that prototype IVR that we made.
Yep.
But so from there, it went to, at that point, like she was saying, we started that in Chicago, and you were working a day job as a legal assistant in a high rise in the city. And I was trying to get our show off the ground, working in the basement of this house that we rented. And everything was tape-based. The camera was a digital video camera, but it was standard def with a tape. So if you shot a half an hour tape, you had at least a half an hour of real-time conversion to get it into the computer.
Oh, right.
Not like today where you just take the chip and grab the file, So if we were, in that particular example, we were probably out in the garage behind the house with the car and building the IVR for, an hour and a half. So there's 3 half-hour tapes that, you need 2 hours to transfer all the footage over and then start editing. And I did all of that myself and then dump it off to a beta tape and then take it to FedEx as the clock is ticking for the air date the next, 2 days from when it got shot. So it's kind of silly when we look back and think of the stuff that we did.
Right.
But Kelle was smart enough to say, hey, you know what we need to do? We need to hire some people that know what they're doing. Right?
Yeah, well, when we started the shop, we were very fortunate, and my parents allowed us the shop space. My dad was a retired diesel mechanic. He had all the tools. He had 5-gallon buckets of bolts and nuts and screws, and we didn't have any inventory. We didn't have anything. And, looking back at that now compared to the inventory we have now, holy cow. And they helped us build shelves and build storage facilities and things that we could store the car parts in. And on top of that, I created a hobby farm out there. So the goat would get on the UPS truck and the cow would run off with, something. And the chickens and the ducks were all around. And I don't know how I had time to maintain all of this. Plus, we would eat lunch or dinner with my parents every day. We'd see them all the time. My dad would do something with a tractor and come over here, I'm stuck. And I'd leave work, quote unquote work at the shop and go help my dad on the farm, So we just merged all kinds of things together when we first started, for sure.
Well, that's funny. You mentioned about the farm, the animals on the farm. I remember invariably when I first stumbled on to V8 TV, and I started watching the videos. Every so often, I would see a dog or a cat in the video, and Kevin get that dog out of here.
Yep. Well,
Kevin was always worried about the safety of the dog because I did a lot of welding, and the dog would be right next to me, and he's like, "You're going to set the dog on fire,"
Right.
Yeah.
He was always worried about the animals.
Labrador flambe is not one of my favorite things. So
no, sir.
And then, of course, the goat jumping on the cars. That was fun.
Not on the customers' cars. The goat jumped on an employee's car, but not a customer's
and your
car.
aunt.
And my aunt, she drove up in
boy.
a car. She drove up in a car and the goat jumped on the roof, and no matter what we did, she just wanted to dance on the roof, would not get off.
Brand new car, by the way.
Yeah.
Oh, even better.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I like the goats. There was a couple of them. I like all kinds of animals, but you just got to keep them at bay. That's the tricky part.
Right.
But I used to make phone calls, so I would be the guy during the day. I'd be shooting the video of people building the cars, and then at night I would edit all that stuff. And in the meantime, be talking to manufacturers about getting parts or doing stuff, making other videos. And when our shop was still on the farm, I'd walk out to where the little pond is, and I'd be on the phone, and the chickens would all be going off and crowing, and the ducks would be, quacking, and these people on the other line are like, "Who are you, and what do you want?"
Kevin paces when he's on the phone, and he would always pace by the chicken coop. I don't know why I didn't go somewhere else, but We used to have every phone call in the car. We'd have to sit in the car to hear what was going on in a phone call. We didn't have offices. It was crazy.
Oh my gosh.
No, and the reception was better out by the chicken house, and that's why.
Oh.
Because of the pond, the lake was right there. So.
Yep.
Now that's a statement you don't hear every day. The reception was better by the chickens.
Yeah, well, that's.
I got to admit, I think that's the first time I've heard that.
Yeah. Well, and again, it was interesting for me because I grew up in the Chicago area, and then I lived in L.A., and then we met, and next thing you know, I'm down on the farm in this small town, and it was a kind of the reverse culture shock that Kelle had when she moved in with me in California, and I went from having 3 offices in 3 different buildings to having to stand by the chicken house to talk on the phone, right?
What the hell am I doing with my life?
Yeah, I mean, I had a 9th floor office at 6420 Wilshire that you could see the Hollywood sign and everything with underground parking and the whole deal. And another one on Melrose across from the Paramount Studios with another underground parking structure, and then our shop in Gardena, California. And now it's like the goat's chewing on your pant leg as you're trying to make a call.
And you had to drive down a rock road, park outside.
But it was great. It was great. And I really dig the small town now. I learned to appreciate the benefits, and especially because the digital world evolved at the same time so that, we can do this kind of stuff and be connected. And then Facebook happened and, all that stuff. So I didn't feel as remote. But it's peaceful and everything else. And, to bring it full circle, I think one of the great things is that our shop is in Redbud, Illinois, which is only 3,300 people, I think, 3,400 people. And some of our crew members, they commute a pretty good distance to get there. An hour and a half almost,
Wow.
each way. But they're there every day, and they're there early and they stay late because they like the environment. And it's a cool place to work. So I think if you would have said back in the farm days, hey, draw up the ideal shop situation and how would you make that happen? There was no way we could have even articulated this. We couldn't even envision this.
No. I knew I wanted a down-draft paint booth, but I didn't know it was going to take us 15 years to get it. I didn't know that.
No.
Yeah, but you got it.
Well, and we made things happen along the way without having it too. We created relationships with different body shops, and when it was time to paint something, a SEMA car, we would rent a booth or go somewhere else and do that.
Yeah.
And I think every once in a while it's a good thing to reflect on some of what I will call the hassles we used to have to, the hoops we used to jump through to get that stuff done. Do you remember when we were painting, probably Steve Prouty's 69 Firebird, the red rowdy car? We rented the paint booth at that body shop, and we had to bring all of our own stuff.
Yeah, I remember we loaded up the car in the trailer, and we loaded up the truck bed with everything: tape, paper, PPS cups, razor blades. Like, we just made the giantest pile of every shop supply we could come up with. If I remember correctly, we even loaded our own jack and jack stands because we always take the wheels off the car. We just didn't want to have to ask this owner for anything more than the paint booth, and we didn't want to use his company's supplies. We didn't want to take advantage of anything like that. So we just kept packing mixing cups and all kinds of stuff.
Tables and chairs.
Yeah.
And boxes.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh. It was a day just to load to go.
Yeah.
And then once we got there, we were able to use this paint booth after hours. So the shop crew, those guys were done, say, at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, right? Well, we were there at 2, starting to unload our stuff without getting in their way until they were able to clock out. And then we immediately descended on the booth and brought the car in and, started to make things happen. It was, and then we had to get the entire car in place, cleaned, masked, wiped down, color shot, stripes laid out, clear shot, unmasked, back out of the booth and in our trailer by the time their crew showed up the next day.
Get out of here.
Yeah, we did so many overnights when we started out. We did ridiculous overnights till 3, 4 o'clock in the morning or straight through. We'd have a 24, 36-hour paint job because at the time, the paint companies we'd use when you'd sprayed base coat, you couldn't, and you wanted to lay out a stripe, you had a window, like let's say 8 hours is all you could, leave that open without having to resand something or whatever.
Before we could clear it, yeah.
Yeah, so we would rush to get the base coat on and then lay out the stripe and then measure it for straightness and fit and align everything up and then get that clear on before that window closed, which caused a ton of overnights and borrowed paint booths and all kinds of stuff, yeah.
Reloaded paint job was 36 hours straight.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
Yeah. And when I say straight, I mean, the only time the work stopped was like when one coat was shot and you'd step out of the booth and sit down and wait for something to dry.
Yeah, you have flash time. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then get back into it. And
good heavens.
So the vision at the time was like, oh man, if we could control a paint booth, we could change everybody's life. Nathan was a painter at that point. He wouldn't have to be, pumping energy drinks straight into his veins to stay awake to do these crazy jobs.
My goodness. Now, this is when you were still working out of the farm. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But then when we finally advanced into the facility we're in now, it had a paint facility. It wasn't as nice as what we wanted. We still painted some very nice cars there, a whole bunch of them. But it still wasn't ideal. And Kelle always had her eye on the building next door that had the much better technology. So eventually that happened. And one of the things that I was not expecting is I knew we would have a bigger footprint with a bigger building and the ability to have more cars and more people. But the efficiencies that picked up were tremendous. And all of a sudden, things are getting done so much faster, which is wonderful for the customer. And the crew was happy because they could get work done and not have to be in somebody else's way or whatever. Mm-hmm. But in the front half of the building, it's like, oh my gosh, that car's almost finished. We gotta make sure there's something to do for everybody, So it really, kind of refocused my efforts on sharing what we do with the world so that people are interested to call us to have them work on their cars,
Right on.
And I was talking to somebody recently about Bob Vila and this old house, right?
Yeah.
So you watch Bob Vila. Everybody's watched Bob Vila. You watch, and what was his name? Norm Abrams that took over, I guess. Mm-hmm. In your life, did you ever have the thought of, I'm going to call Bob Vila up to work on my house? No, you never did.
I have not.
No, because it's a TV show. You're like, oh, that's a guy on TV. And I think even today, people watch either our television show or they watch our YouTube videos, and they don't make the connection that they can call us and hire us to build their car.
We can call it, and I'll even answer the phone, and I'll book your appointment.
Yeah, right. Yeah, chances are, now we brought in a gentleman named Joe who's doing a lot of those calls and doing a really good job of it. But that's a thing, So sometimes people do call because our number is in the YouTube videos, and I'll answer, and they're like, "Hey, you sound just like that guy."
Or they'll say, "Kevin, Kevin, I'm on the phone with Kevin, right?" Yes, you're really on the phone with Kevin, that guy.
It's a big letdown.
Yep.
So,
awesome.
Yeah, it is pretty wild to see how far it's come. And the other crucial thing, and when I said before that you were smart enough to hire people to kind of orchestrate which people to hire and where to put them, I think it's another one of the things that separates V8 Speed and Resto from other shops, because a lot of times the person doing the work is also the person answering the door and answering the phone. And we're fortunate enough to have evolved beyond that to where Kelle and I aren't doing the work on the cars anymore because she's hired people that are far better than us to do those, tasks, very passionate team members. But also they're kind of specialists. We've got the specialized mechanics, the specialized metal guys, the specialized paint and body guys, and the interior shop. And the difference there is that, sometimes you see shops where you have one person that's like really uber talented, and today they're building an engine, and tomorrow they're welding, and then the next day they're painting the car. But it's, in our case, our team is they all cross over. So our painter can build an engine, but it's not what he's optimal at. It's not his super strength. So we have the people with their strengths doing the stuff day in, day out that they're really, really good at. And that just benefits everybody too. And that was kind of a strategy that you picked up in the law firm.
Yeah, and what I think is really cool is our crew has this mutual admiration. Like you said, if our painter is so talented and he knows the engine parts and he can turn a wrench easily, but he admires the skill set of our mechanics, or our mechanics admire the skill set of our fabricators, even though they can all weld. And that, I think, is what's making it such a great team, is when I tried to find someone who had their best skill set, like Jeff, our painter, and then he and I talked, and I said, well, in the interview, I said, tell me about your mechanical experience. Tell me about your electrical experience. Do you know how to weld? And I tried to find employees across the board in every department who had their special skill, but also could help or have knowledge of a different department or all the departments. And what I find is so good is, again, going back to Jeff, he's painting a water pump, for example. But he knows that he's painting a water pump, and he knows which side is up and down and which is the front and which is the back. And, if he's got a paint run or something, he knows he's got to fix it. Or if he knows he's got to mask something off because it's a gasket surface. He also knows that if he sees a weld, if it is not completely finished or it doesn't lap like we want them to for safety purposes, he'll point that out to the fabricator and say, before I paint this needs to be welded more, or can you grind down this spot or something. So each of our guys have that eye to help the other department and pay attention to those kind of things, and I think it just it makes a phenomenal team that way.
Yeah, that certainly creates a great synergy in the shop to put out an even better product. So right on.
Right.
Well, and you don't have to like the people you work with, but in our case, I think they do. They just, it's obvious. Everybody likes to hang around after work and have a drink or tell jokes or whatever. But I've seen, especially through Kelly's brother, who used to, kind of moonlight with us many years ago, his stories of coming home from a collision shop every day were just awful. Because it was every department against the other department. So it was like the mechanics were against the collision techs, and the body men were against the painters, and the painters were against the preppers, and everybody was against the front office, and the whole building was against the insurance company, and the paint rep and everything. And it was like, wow. And you hear stuff like stories of other shops where the painter didn't care what the part looked like or what the car looked like. If it got put in front of him, he painted it, and that was it, and then pushed it out the door. Not my fault. It's your body work. We don't have any of that kind of attitude, which is so nice.
And we created the internal customer too, where if something is going to leave the fab shop, the body guy checks it, and then before it gets done at the body shop, the painter checks the body shop's guy, and they help each other, and that is just seemingly unheard of, but I think very important to the finished product for the customer as well as for the team to help each other.
Extremely important. I could not agree more. Yeah, you've really dialed in and tapped into something really special out there. So I wish every place had that.
Well, for me, it went from an environment where I would have to be more part of that team because there was just a couple of us doing the work, to now where I walk through and I'm like, oh, wow, look at that. Oh, that's awesome. How'd you do that?
Right on.
And just today, as a matter of fact, I kind of got back to the beginning because I was actually turning wrenches today, Mike. Do you believe that?
You really?
On the 62 Ford Galaxy. Do what?
I need a moment. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Do pray tell. What were we turning a wrench on?
I don't remember what song it was, but in August, Kevin and I left our house on our way to the shop the day of the V8 Speed and Resto Shop drive-in.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And Kevin was driving, the top was down, it was a beautiful morning, and we cranked up the radio, and I was bebopping in the seat and having a good time and snapping and arms in the air because the convertible top was down. And all of a sudden, things just didn't feel right in the car.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked at him, and he was kind of... Oeste is very good at disguising if he's concerned about the car. Very good at it. So I kind of tried to watch him, and I kept feeling the gas altering up and down and the shifting not so up and down.
Ooh.
So I stopped singing and dancing, and I said, did we just blow the transmission? To which...
Blow is a strong word.
We think something broke in the transmission. So we got it to Redbud. We did not take it to the drive-in theater, and it has been parked since in storage. Very sad. And here we've had some 60-degree weather days, and I said, springtime's coming. Can we get that transmission fixed? So we attempted today, but I don't think it went well.
Well, and
you were telling me something of what you think it might be. So is that what you're investigating?
Right. So our last episode of the podcast, we talked about how I wanted to pull a trigger and do the Holly Sniper EFI swap on the car and make some upgrades. And in the meantime, as soon as it broke, I thought, hey, you know what? Maybe we're going to get lucky, and it might be just a stuck valve in the transmission. Let's change the fluid, drive it around the block a few times, beat on it, see if we can get it to shift. Well, of course, that didn't happen. So then it got parked. And I didn't really put a whole lot of time into researching what was going on because I was looking up the rebuild cost. I thought maybe I'll today we got some resources. We'll call our local trans guy that does a lot of great work for us. And it was like $2,000 to rebuild this transmission. I was like, oh my gosh. So then I was investigating, kind of always wanted a 5-speed manual in that thing. We've had this conversation before. But, yesterday Kelly's like, well, what do you think this is? And I did a little research, and I found that the 4R70W automatic overdrive transmission is known for a particular failure, which is very similar to what I've experienced. And when you take the pan down and take the valve body out, there's a snap ring that holds a thing called the overdrive accumulator piston. And the piston moves up and down as you shift the car, and it comes down hard on this O-ring. It's a snap ring, not an O-ring, a snap ring. Mm-hmm. And sometimes the snap ring can shatter, and a piece of the snap ring falls into the valve body, and it blocks a valve from allowing it to go into overdrive. And that's what the car is doing. It's neutraling an overdrive is what they call it. So I find this fix online. I watch a video. This guy has, here, it's easy. Take this thing down. You'll see it right away. So I told Kelly, I'm like, you know what? I think I can probably, fix this thing for a $5 part in a couple hours worth of time, and then we can at least drive it and enjoy it for a little while, and then do our EFI swap, because the parts are finally starting to come in for the EFI swap. We're victims of back order just like everybody else. And so I brought I go into the shop and I talked to Rod, our shop manager, and I said, can I throw a monkey wrench into this thing? We're supposed to have a nice weekend. Can I get on a drive-on lift? And he's like, well, that one's moving off and that one's open. Yeah, sure, you can use that lift. What are you going to do? And I said, well, I'm thinking about trying to fix the Galaxy. Oh, cool. Yeah, go get it. So Trevor and I go down to the storage unit where the car's been stored for 6 months, put the jump box on it. I do have to say, I did not know this, but they put a cover on the car when it was in storage. That was nice.
Aww.
Disconnected the battery and everything. So it was clean and on. And
See? Our boys
nice.
are so awesome.
They are. And we got it fired up, drive it back to the shop. It didn't fix itself in storage. I was
no.
a little,
do they ever?
Crap.
A little bit hoping. And put it on the lift, drop the pan, take the valve body apart, and lo and behold, the snap ring was fine.
Shuckers.
Oh, that was a big shucks.
You got me.
Yeah, but part of this was an interesting exercise because, again, I got to work in the shop, which I normally don't get a chance to do very often anymore. Mm-hmm. And that's where you find things that need to be tuned up, because sometimes I'll go in on the weekend and it's like I'm going to go in the fab shop and I want to make something. And I'm not there every day, so I don't know where everything is, and I get frustrated, or I find that, a tool needs attention, or the welding tank's out of gas or whatever. And then you get done about a quarter of what you wanted to. Well, today, because
Tell them where you got the tools from today, Oeste.
Yeah, I was getting there. My own toolbox is off-sited now. It's no longer right there in the mechanic shop where it used to be, my roll cab of SK Tools. So I knew that there was a pretty well-stocked pair of toolboxes in the bed of Kelly's new truck. It's her tools. So I went and grabbed her toolboxes and
Nice.
dragged them in. And the great thing about that was I put them right on the cart, and I didn't have to go for anything else. It had the screwdrivers, had the electric impact, and all the stuff that I needed was right there. So it came apart real quickly, and again, I found out that the snap ring was not broken. But I thought maybe I'll clean up the valve body and free something up. Maybe it will work after all. And one of our technicians, Kelle, came by and he said, sometimes, around here you take things apart and you don't find anything, you put it back together and it works. And I said, well, that's never happened to me in my life. But Trevor pointed out that on that 38 Chevy we're building, we had a brand new GM crate motor that we took it out of the crate, put it in the car, fired it up, and it made a noise. And GM asked us to check a couple things. So Trevor pulled the pan, looked at the bearings, couldn't find anything, put it back together, dead silent. So the theory worked in that case. So I'm like, here, Trevor, touch this transmission for me, because maybe this will help. Got it all back together, put fluid in it, drove it around the block, and it still does the exact same thing as it did before.
Bummer.
That was a bummer. But I did not have any major frustrations in doing the work, which tells you that, the shop efficiency is there, all the supplies were there. I didn't have to go to the parts store and get, brake cleaner or anything. We were very well stocked. I could see the light was there. Everything worked. So it was only a couple hours in and out. Probably the first time when I said, yeah, this is going to be a couple-hour job, and it truly only was a couple-hour job.
Nice.
But
really nice.
Didn't have the outcome we wanted, so it got put away again. So,
well, on the flip side of that, I was just helping a friend of my wife. They drive an 02 Buick Rendezvous, and the rear ball joint blew out on them when they were right by our house. So, and they don't necessarily have the resources to take it to a shop and get it fixed. And everybody knows that I can work on cars. So my wife's looking at me. She's like, Michael, you're going to help them, right? I'm like, fine. Mm-hmm. So they called the tow truck, and it was like just down the street from my house. Had it brought to my garage, and it was up, jacked it up. And the stark contrast of having everything next to you and have it being well lit is nice, because in my garage it's not well lit, and I'm getting up and down, grabbing some tools. Is this going to fit? No, this doesn't fit. You end up with a pile of stuff next to you. You're kicking it as you're moving around, because you don't have a lift. You just have it jacked up. You're sitting on the floor, and your knees are killing you. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, man, I wish I had a nice shop. I wish I had a lift. I got to get a lift. This would be so great.
It makes a big difference, but it was nice of you to help your buddy out.
Yeah. I mean, we've all been there. People have helped me, and you guys have helped me, and just it feels good to pay it forward and do something nice for somebody with not expecting anything in return from them. So, so that was my good deed of the week.
Yeah, good job, Mike.
Thank you.
Well, you're right,
and it even worked. How about that?
Yay!
Hey, right on. Yeah. And you're right. A good facility makes that work enjoyable and not a burden, Mm-hmm. But I can hear a collective quickening of the pulse of our listening audience as they wonder the answers to our trivia questions. And we have 3 of them now, so we got to, give a little time.
Burn through this.
That's right. So, Kelle, you went first, so I guess you have to reveal the answers that Mike and I both got wrong to your trivia question.
Okay. The question was, what company did Henry Ford need to get permission from to use Mercury as a model name? The answer is Kissel, Kissell.
Ah, criminy. What?
Kissel.
The rights to use the Mercury name were purchased by Edsel for Ford Motor, according to a noted Ford Model T historian Jarvis Erickson, after Edsel had bought a Mercury Speedster in 1922 for his personal use.
So
Mercury had a Speedster before the Zephyr and the other cars you mentioned. They had a Speedster.
Wow. And Kissel owned the name, huh?
Yes. Kissel also manufactured, I think, like fire trucks. So when you said Firestone, I was like, ah!
All right, so we're both right.
I was so close.
Kissel manufactured
close.
fire trucks, and they had a really cool Mercury logo. And that's why he had to get it from them.
I gotcha. Yeah, okay, wrong. wrong.
Wow, we're both wrong. That doesn't happen often.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
thanks, Trevor, for helping me.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Trevor.
Yeah. That sounds like him. I can hear him saying the word Kissel.
and pushing his hair back.
Yes. And then a story where I just start to glaze over and he just goes on. So that is empathy for our listeners who glaze over as we go on.
Right.
All right, Mr. Q, your question was...
My question was, what was the firing order of a Chevy small block?
Yeah, total fail on Kelly's part. Whoops.
And Kelle said like 12, like 8, 11, 15,
9,
9 26, 85, 32, which was really close, but not quite there.
Yeah.
And Kevin said 1-843-6572, rattled it right off, and ding, 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 ding. You are a winner, sir.
Of course, Oeste knew the answer.
Well, that was one that was a fun trivia question to know when you're in high school. You know, that, and back at the time, there was also what were the 10 sizes of small block Chevy displacements?
Oh.
262, 265, 267, 283, 302, 305, 307, 327, 350, 400. Tune in next week, kids. Yeah. Another one blown. Another great trivia question blown out the window.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good.
All right. Well, my question to you guys was had nothing to do with our guest.
Are you kidding? Hey, maybe we should address who got pulled over the most recent.
Shots fired.
I'm
Shots
sorry.
fired.
Who got what last?
Who got pulled over most recently?
You.
No!
Yeah. See, and I can say that because you get pulled over all the time and don't tell me. I did
not.
There's that poker face again.
I did not get pulled over since you got pulled over.
When did I get pulled over?
Just last week. I'm going to be late. I got pulled over.
I was in Arizona.
Well, okay, the week before that. Sorry.
Oh, I did. Yeah. But I wasn't really even, well, I was speeding.
You were speeding.
I was coming home to see you.
Oh, you're speeding to see me.
Well, great recovery. Great recovery.
Okay,
all right, so when was
the
the first speeding ticket issued, and the bonus, what type of car was it in? And
Did
Mikey
it have anything
said,
to do with the speed limit being in 55? I mean, 55 miles per hour? Did they correlate at all?
No, it had nothing to do with that, as a matter of fact. So,
okay.
So Mike said it was in 1902 in a steam car. And Kelle said it was in 1962 in something fast like a 1962 Dotona.
Which they don't make those.
Backtrack of which they didn't really make. But whatever, I don't care. And
what a great impression.
Yeah. The correct answer is the first speeding infraction in the United States was committed by a New York City taxi driver on May 20th, 1899.
What?
Look how close I was.
You were very close.
Bam!
And this chap, his name was Jacob German, who was caught doing a blistering 12 miles an hour down Lexington Street in Manhattan. The speed limit was 8 miles an hour on straightaways and 4 miles per hour when turning. But one of the reasons why he was able to do this is because he drove for the electric vehicle company.
Oh, man.
And the bonus was what type of car? It was an electric car for a speeding ticket.
Man.
Nah.
Yep,
What?
yep.
I was good with the alternative fuel.
Yeah, exactly. Steam.
In 18 what?
1899.
You know what this is going to turn into? You're going to have to tell me the whole story and explain an electric car in 1899 to me later, not now.
Tune in next time, folks. That's outstanding. So, let's see. Kelly's question we both got wrong. Mike's question I got right. Kelle got wrong. My question you both got wrong. So
Yeah. Kevin's the big winner.
Oeste's always the winner.
I got lucky on that one.
Mm-hmm. Well played, sir. Well done.
Yeah.
We'll get him next time, Kelly.
Real quick, what's the status of Mike's motor?
Oh, Mike's motor is getting heads rebuilt right as we speak by our friend Eric. And when those are returned, then I will be able to burn forward with the final assembly.
Well, buy Eric bacon. He works for bacon, so
Okay.
yeah,
He likes
and make him get it done faster.
I'll get him all the bacon he wants.
It's got to be good
problem
bacon.
with it.
You got to go to a
Oh, it'll be good bacon.
Yeah.
It'll be good bacon.
Go to a butcher. I bribe him with bacon that was cut by our friend Red Lair, who owns that 64 Galaxy 428 car that we work on. His day job is they own a butcher shop, and Red fully understands the currency of the bacon.
Yes.
Okay. Well, we have a good butcher shop in downtown Plainfield. I will go visit them quickly and get that done.
I don't believe you.
You don't believe me?
No.
Well, you're going to believe it when I send you some bacon.
There we go. Well, that worked out pretty well.
Yeah.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, this made you sit through this whole thing, but I get bacon. And this was a little bit different because we had our in virtual studio guest. Kelle, thank you so much for joining us. It was
Thank
a
you
lot
for
of fun.
having me participate. It was fun to go down memory lane a little bit.
And continue the excellent work. And thanks for listening. Right on.
Yay. Well, it's always fun.
Good. And Mike, because we're making a couple of improvements. We brought in a guest. I also thought we might add a little segment at the end to close the show out. I'm calling this One for the Road. Ready?
Let's do it.
So thanks to everybody for listening to V8 Radio. You can find us, of course, we've got to do the plug, right? You can find us on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn Radio, Google Play, Google Podcast, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Player FM, Podbean, Podchaser, V8 Radio, and a few others. And please subscribe because it makes it easier. But your parting thought, one for the road. May your lifetime warranted car parts never need them.
Nice.
Not quite the reaction I was expecting. Let me try a different one.
May your lifetime warranty car parts
Never need them.
never need them. Well, that is a nice sentiment.
It's very nice.
Yeah.
That is a nice
let me
sentiment.
try another one. All right. Here we go.
I got a million
Our
of them.
parting thought, one for the road. May your... Take two. May you...
Is
This
this where
sounds
we
like,
turn on Mike's anger meter?
Yeah, Mike's been doing some...
That was the best ever!
Mike's been doing some voiceover for us. You might have heard on some V8 TV videos, doing a great job. The outtake reel is precious. We might do an edited version as a bonus if you listen all the way through this far. But maybe next time. All right, one for the road. May you park your muscle car between people who appreciate it more than you do.
Ooh.
Oh.
Now that I like.
Yeah.
There you go.
That
Cheers
I like.
to that.
And we will see you next time on VA Radio.